We're staying on top of breaking news on WUSA 9 News at 5. One student is hurt and another student is in custody after a shooting inside Wootton High School in Rockville. We thank you for joining us. It is Monday, not quite the way we thought we'd be kicking things off. I'm Leslie Foster.
And I'm Lorenzo Hall. So we are told that student is stable. Police say they have the weapon, and we know all roads around the school are closed and people are being asked still to stay away.
Now, we've been following this story for you for about a couple hours now. Matt Gregory, John Duran, Randy Hildreth are all out on the scene. But Matt, let's start with you. You were one of the first there talking to some students and some parents who were quite concerned in those very first minutes after this happened.
Yeah, Leslie, in those first minutes, it was confusion, fear, and anxiety. And I do think that now it's just kind of giving way to confusion as parents try to figure out how do they pick up their students. We have actually seen, I'm going to show you now, several buses coming through, and they're all full of students. There's one that's going to take a few minutes to get to. It's off in the distance there in front of Wootton High School. But as you can see, it's turned into less of a police situation of trying to get inside the building and more of directing traffic, getting students out of Wootton High School and on their way to Robert Frost Middle School, because this is what the protocol is. The students will be taken from Wootton High School over to Robert Frost Middle School, and that's where the reunification point will be. Now, while we've been standing here, the parents who've been waiting here as well to hear from their kids have told us they haven't been told by MCPS yet that this is happening, but we're seeing with our own eyes students getting on buses, being taken down, and they're making a right towards Robert Frost Middle School, as well as buses that are going on their natural routes home. So that's the situation right now. I want to run through what happened within the minutes when we got here. 2:15, that's when a shot is fired inside of Wootton High School. We are told by police that they found a student with a gunshot wound inside the hallway. At the same time, the helicopters that we have had above the scene eventually captured one person in handcuffs being taken out to a police car. Not sure if that person's been arrested in terms of in connection to this, or if they're just in custody. We don't know if there are any other suspects, but we do know that one person, like I said, is in custody. And in those early moments, as parents got here, when they heard the call, when they heard what was happening, we talked to a father who was actively text messaging with his son, who was hiding inside of a classroom, inside of a closet, under lockdown, frantically sending messages to his father. This is what the man we spoke to, and hear what he heard from his son's text message perspective.
I was at work. I got a text from my son. We have a family group thing, and it says that here first was shouting and then just banging, and everybody's locked down, all the lights are off. So obviously I came here right away, and I called 911 right away. They already knew about it, and I don't know what's happening.
Well, what's it? I mean, I know it's an obvious question, but as a parent, you know, you heard this and immediately you came here. Tell me what's going through your head.
I just hope that what's happening, the officers just break the door and go inside. I just don't want them to stay outside. Remind me what happened in Texas, and I don't want that happens here. So I just want to make sure whatever is happening, just go inside. That's all.
And as a parent, what is this?
As a parent, I'm not going to send my kids to school. That's the first thing on my mind. I know it's crazy. I was just telling my wife, homeschooling, I guess, is the best thing to do, because this is not. I mean, these are the parents crying, some are crying, and this is crazy. I'm lucky that I get text from my son here, so I know he's okay. It sounds like I talked to mom. She hasn't heard anything, and this is crazy.
It's insane.
It's insane. It shouldn't happen there, especially in this country. You shouldn't have this kind of stuff. But
and now we just sit here and wait.
Just sit and wait. I mean, this is crazy. I didn't have metal. I don't know. Actually, crazy thing is that my daughter is also a middle school here, just down here. I actually a few weeks ago went and talked to the principal, and I said we should put metal detector here. And he's like, "Oh no, we cannot do that." I mean, what are we waiting for? We should do that. What are we waiting for? This kind of stuff should not happen. I much prefer that they search every single kid before they go inside.
What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? And at the same time, he said, I'm thinking, I know it sounds crazy, of homeschooling my kids. That was the reaction from a father waiting to find out information about what was going on inside Wootton High School. And you can understand, you can empathize with the emotions, the feelings on a day where you get a message that's a bit unclear that says there's a shooting at your son's school and it's under lockdown. that's what when we spoke to that man, that was the thing that kept coming back. His son hiding in a closet, lights off, told to be quiet, messaging frantically with his father and his mother and his other siblings. Now, as we've been standing here, we're seeing some cars leave. These are obviously the first of what I've seen coming out of the school that are not, as you can see right here, police vehicles. I'm not sure if they're teachers or faculty or staff, but we're seeing folks leaving that for the first time in 3 or 4 hours are not police cruisers coming and going. So the scene is still sort of resolving itself here as we get into the portion of the students being told that they're going to be released right now, or at least that's what we're seeing with our own eyes. Anyway, one of the things that we're still working to learn more information about, let's kind of recircle in again and get you everything you need to know. We're looking at the police investigation still. That's going to be going on. We actually saw more of the unmarked cruisers, which seem to usually indicate detectives and investigators on their way in. Like you heard Lorenzo and Leslie saying, we know that one student was taken to a nearby hospital. They're in stable condition, but we don't know the extent of those injuries. What does stable mean in terms of where the injuries were and what the recovery time will look like? We know one student is also in custody and a gun has been recovered. We're working to get more information about the particulars of the police investigation, but for right now outside of Wootton High School, it looks like folks are suddenly starting to get a little bit more clarity on when their students will be heading home and what's going on there. But for now, in Rockville, I'm Matt Gregory. Back to you.
Yeah, we know dismissal is currently underway, so those students are heading home at this hour, which is a big change from earlier.
Yeah, big change from earlier. No parent sends their kid to school thinking they're going to end their school day in a hospital bed, for sure. All right, Matt, thank you so much.
Let's check in with our John Duran now. John, what more can you tell us about what happened today?
Lorenzo, we are at Wootton Parkway and Hurley Avenue. This is about as close as you could get to Wootton High School by car right now. You see Montgomery-County police officers directing traffic behind me, and there's been a lot of traffic and a lot of people asking questions, confused. Where can, meet my child, pick my kid up, things like that we're hearing behind us. It's also where we met City of Rockville Council member Adam Van Grock, who lives in the neighborhood and has a child who's a sophomore at Wootton High School. He says once he heard the news of the shooting, he reached out to his son, called him, and actually informed his son of what was going on. Van Grock, just like any parent with a child inside Wootton High School today, frantic, scared, looking for answers and hoping their child is okay.
Before I heard about it, having lived right off Wootton Parkway, I heard the police and they were screaming down the road. I was able to get here because I live right nearby, but the timeline was hearing the police, the timeline was finding out there's an active shooter, the timeline was me coming right here on the outskirts and watching the police come out and SWAT. I can also tell you that the degree to which the Rockville Police Department and the Montgomery County Police Department got here expeditiously was incredible. The very first thing is, are you safe? But after that, when I informed him that it was an active shooter situation, that he did not know, that's when obviously the conversations got emotional. And it's a matter of realizing that could be the last time you're communicating with your child. So there's no question that is emotional. And that's one of the reasons why I say, he's a victim. Everybody in that school is a victim of the tragedy that occurred today. And it's something that we have to realize, that when things like this happen, there are victims that stretch throughout. And there are one could say that every student in Montgomery County, because we've now had an incident in Montgomery County where there was an active student situation.
And in about an hour from now, right here, we're expected to get an update from police and officials on exactly what happened this afternoon. And of course, Leslie, Lorenzo, we will bring that to you when that happens.
Yeah, that council member said it pretty succinctly and emotionally. There was one student who was shot, but an entire population of students and staff and community members who were all victims because of what happened there today.
Yeah, more than 2,000 students processing what happened at school, and also what's to come, what happens tomorrow. All right, John, thank you.
All right, we're going to check in now with Randy Hildreth. She is at Frost Middle School where families are meeting back up with their students. It's about a, 5 to 8 minute walk on a good day from Wootton over to Frost Middle School. Probably a little longer today with all of the road closures and things, but certainly a lot of, hopefully, a warm embraces when those families are able to connect at Frost Middle.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give you context to exactly where I am. I'm at the intersection of Overly Drive and Foxton. Right behind me, you can see Glen Echo Fire Department blocking off the street. This is as far as parents can get to park their vehicles. And if we take a look down Foxton Drive, you can see parents lining the streets, waiting to be reunited, to give that warm embrace to their child, considering everything that they have experienced today. I've had a moment to walk up and down the street and talk with parents about what they are processing and what their students are processing or what their children are processing. I spoke with one woman who has a child who attends Frost Middle School and another child who attends Wootton High School, and I could see on her face the emotions of the day, getting the panicked alert from her son of what was going on, and then waiting at this moment to see him in person after he has experienced this lockdown at the school and as we have reported, a shooting on campus. I just spoke with a Glen Echo Fire Department official who was blocking the intersection and alerting parents of how to navigate this area, that we know that middle school students here have been released and that students from the high school should begin showing up shortly. That is word from officials here on the scene. And you can start to see some of the parents, and if we whip the camera around, you can see many come and speak with law enforcement officials here before they walk up closer to the school. We are about one intersection down from Frost Middle School. I did have a chance to speak with another parent off camera, because a lot of the parents here did not want to speak on camera yet. Again, they are processing what they are dealing with, and I talked with him about the conversations that he plans to have with his child, and he says that, one, he was so relieved to know that his child was okay, thinking obviously about the student who is recovering at this hour, and I talked with him about the conversations that he'll have with his child once he sees him in person, and he says, I plan to talk with him about what happened and hold space for him to be able to process his feelings. And I asked him, is this a tough day for you as a parent? And he quietly said yes. And so, Lorenzo, I think you mentioned just the processing that students are going through right now, being in that building at the time, but there's also a level of processing that many parents, many guardians are going through right now. Relief, concern, heartbreak, and then having that conversation with their child about what happened here. I would estimate, if I just do a quick scan, I would say at least 50 cars are parked at this intersection and counting. We know a lot of the roads in this area leading to Frost Middle School are blocked off because they had to work through getting students from Frost Middle School out as they work to bring students from Wootton High School in. I'm going to continue to talk with parents. We haven't seen students reunite with parents to begin walking to the car. Again, most of the parents I have seen have checked in and are going to be right at the middle school so that as soon as they see their child, I'm sure that warm embrace and then to bring them and to get them safely home. But I'll go ahead and send it back to you live this evening. Randy Hildreth, WUSA 9.
You know, Randy, you have been a teacher yourself. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this, but you talk about the kinds of conversations that parents are having with their kids. There are some really tough conversations when those kids come back to class that their teachers will be having with them as well.
Absolutely. I didn't experience an incident like this. When I was teaching high school in Florence, South Carolina, we did have a bomb threat. And I remember us gathering with the students and not having a lot of information at the time. In situations like this, there is a lot going on. They're trying to understand what is going on to keep students as safe as they can in school, to figure out where is the threat, what is the threat, the scope of the threat. When I was talking to one of the parents, she was saying it takes a minute because in a situation like this, they have to go room by room to assess the threat. And so it takes a while, and the information it takes time to pass that along. And as a parent, if you hear of anything that is going on, your immediate reaction is to go to that school. And I remember in that moment as a teacher, because when a parent's child is in your care, you have the responsibility of them at that moment, making sure that they are physically okay, but then also making sure that they are mentally okay, walking them through the unknowns and trying to keep them calm in that moment. And so as a former teacher, being in that moment during that bomb threat at my school, I can imagine what these teachers are going through, the weight of that responsibility, being nervous yourself in that moment, and trying to provide some sense of security for those students before you hand them off lovingly back to their parents. So just the scope and the layers of this, exactly as you mentioned, not just the students, not just the parents, but the teachers who love on these students, I'm sure, when they are in their classrooms every single day. So a lot of layers to this. And one more thing, I remember when that incident happened at the school, when we were beginning to release, of course you saw those parents lined out in front of the school because, you know, as a parent, and I know you're a parent, as soon as you hear of something going on with your child, you want to be in place to make sure that you can get eyes on them, to make sure that they are okay. And just the emotions out here, as we continue to learn more about what's going on, of course, thoughts with the student who is recovering, but I know that these parents are thinking about their babies. But I'll send it back to you.
Because it doesn't end here. They know this continues. And you know, Randy, you mentioned it as well. Being in the classroom, you prepare for these drills a lot. You prepare for these moments, I should say. We heard from a student earlier saying, you know, we practice for this several times a year. Close the blinds, turn off the lights, go and hide. But it's a different thing when you actually go through something like this, when it actually happens. And that's what these students are experiencing today, how to move forward, how to process all of this.
It will take a whole community approach to help them get through it as well.
And let us point out, we had Sky 9 up there. We know that the line, we can see them behind you, Randy. You showed us that image from your camera, but we have that aerial view of a lot of the parents who are lining up to pick up their children or their child there at Frost Middle School. So we know they are anxiously awaiting to give them that warm embrace, as we mentioned before, and also those students who are lining up to take their normal bus route home.
Boy, a very, very long day here for the students, the staff, the parents, the community here. So many emotions swirling on this day. Randy, we thank you for your reporting and for your context about your own experience there. I guess we should recap for people who might just be joining us today. There was a student shot inside Wootton High School in Rockville. Police say another student was responsible for that. At least that's what we're reporting at this point. It happened not long before these students were expected to be released. 2:30 was dismissal time, and those gunshots were fired at 2:15. Yeah, the buses were outside, engines running, waiting to take those students home. We can tell you that the student who was shot is in stable condition, that at least physically they're expected to make a full recovery. Police have also found the weapon that was allegedly used in this situation, and you saw there with our Randy Hildreth a moment ago. Families are being reunited with their child or their children at Frost Middle School. We're hoping to perhaps be able to connect a few more dots around 6 o'clock when we hear from officials and we get the official update at 6 p.m. And of course, as soon as that happens, we'll make sure we bring it to you. And as soon as we learned of what happened there, we joined you live on the air. Yeah, for updates anytime, just download the WUSA 9 app on your phone, and you can watch us anytime on the free WUSA 9 Plus streaming app. We'll be right back with more of the news at 5.